All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about one of the most influential pieces of tech in modern web development, React. It's the JavaScript library that really just completely changed how we all think about building things for the internet.
Give it 5 minutes. That wasn't just a suggestion, it was a challenge. It came from an early member of the React's team, and it was aimed at developers who were, let's just say, very skeptical. It was basically a plea to just look past the initial weirdness and give it a shot. And that challenge, that 5-minute leap of faith, is really the heart of our whole explainer today.
So when Facebook first open-sourced React back in 2013, the reaction wasn't just a little chilly. For a lot of people, it was downright hostile. Its approach wasn't just new, it felt, well, a little bit wild. It seemed to go against everything developers had been taught was the right way to do things.
And here's why people were so thrown off. First off, there was this thing called JSX. It looked like you were mixing HTML right into your JavaScript code. Now, for years, the golden rule was separation of concerns. You keep your HTML structure and your JavaScript logic in totally separate files. React just came along and threw that right out the window. On top of that, it wasn't a full framework that gave you everything. It was just a small library. And it needed a special compiler to even work in a browser. It was asking developers to change, well, pretty much everything about how they worked.
But underneath all that controversy was this really profound shift in thinking. It was a move from an imperative way of doing things to a declarative one. Think of it like this. The old way was like giving a taxi driver turn-by-turn directions. Turn left on Main, go 3 blocks, take a right. You get the idea. The React way? You just tell the driver the address. You don't care how they get there. You just describe the final destination you want, and React figures out the best way to make it happen on the screen.
So what was the first big aha moment that started winning people over? It was this idea of components. And honestly, the best way to think about them is as digital Lego bricks.
At its core, a component is just a self-contained, reusable little building block for your user interface. It packages up its own logic and its own appearance into one tidy thing. So you can build a button component one time, and then you can use it absolutely everywhere in your app, and it's always going to look and work the exact same way. It's like inventing your own custom HTML tags.
So let's see how this actually works. Imagine we start by creating our first simplest little brick, a button. That's its whole job. It's just a button.
Okay, next, we build another totally separate brick, a search bar. It's got its own style, its own logic, and you know what? It has no idea that the button even exists. They're completely independent.
And here's where the magic really happens. We can now take our simple, independent bricks, the button and the search bar, and we can just snap them together to create something bigger and more complex, like a header. This is called composition, and it is how you build massive, incredibly complex applications from small, simple, and totally manageable pieces.
Now, the second big aha moment came from understanding how these Lego bricks could actually come to life, right? How do you go from a static interface to something interactive? The answer is a concept called state.
State is, well, it's basically a component's memory. It's any piece of information that might change based on what a user does, like whether a menu is open or the text someone's typed into a search field. State is what turns a static picture into a dynamic, living application.
And here's where that whole declarative idea we talked about earlier really pays off. When a user does something like click a like button, you don't have to manually go and find the number on the screen and change it. No, you just update the state. You say, hey, the like count is now 4. And that's it. React sees that state change and automatically and super efficiently updates just that tiny piece of the UI to show the new number. This simple loop is the engine that powers all of React. It's that simple. So with these two super powerful ideas, components and state, it's really no surprise that React just exploded. It went from being just this one small library to being at the center of a massive universe of tools and other technologies. And its journey to the top was fast. I mean, it started inside Facebook in 2011, went public in 2013, and then boom, by 2015, we get React Native, which lets developers use the exact same skills to build native mobile apps. By 2016, the whole ecosystem was just blowing up with essential tools for things like app navigation or managing complex data. And today, yeah, it's pretty much the default way to build a modern UI.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The data absolutely backs this up. When you look at developer surveys, at what tools people are actually using every day, React has pulled way ahead of the competition. It didn't just become popular, it really became the new standard.
So let's bring it all the way back to that initial challenge. Why was giving this supposedly wild idea 5 minutes of your time so worth it? What was the real, lasting impact?
It really comes down to a few key things. First, that declarative code is just way simpler to understand and fix when something goes wrong. Its component model lets you build massive applications out of simple, Lego-like pieces. The whole learn once, write anywhere philosophy is huge. Your skills transfer from web to mobile with React Native and even beyond. And finally, that ecosystem is so massive that no matter what problem you have, someone has probably already built a tool for it.
And look, this isn't just some niche tool. We're talking about the biggest companies in the world. Facebook, Netflix, Airbnb, the list goes on. They bet their entire products on React. Why? Because it let their teams build better, more sophisticated apps faster than they ever could before.
Ultimately, the story of React is just this amazing testament to how a really counterintuitive idea, if you just give it 5 minutes, can fundamentally change an entire industry. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's the next wild idea out there right now, just waiting for its 5 minutes to come along and change the web all over again?